Have you ever felt like you're carrying everyone else's energy, but somehow you can't find a place where you feel safe inside? It's that constant feeling of being on edge, like you're losing yourself in the emotions around you, unsure where your boundaries start and end. You might feel emotionally drained, overwhelmed, and sometimes even disconnected from who you are. And even though you deeply care for others, there's this longing to find a space where you can breathe and feel grounded again. If this sounds familiar, you are not alone. Today, we're going to dive into what it truly means to create safety within yourself as an empath and to find that inner peace and reconnect with your own energy without being swept away by the world around you. I know this is something that me and Rain can relate to as empaths. And we just want to dive right in. And Rain, I want to ask you, why do we feel like we're losing ourselves in the emotions of others? And how can we start feeling safe in our own energy again?
Oh, why do we lose ourselves? So we basically lose ourselves to everybody else's energy because this is how we were made. We were made to feel like one with everything around us. Okay. So when you listen to the spiritual stuff, you'll hear a lot that once you reach 5D, then you are going to feel everyone else's feelings, right? You're going to feel more connected to everyone. You're going to have a heightened sense of empathy. To me, I truly believe these spiritual things are speaking to they're not speaking to the empaths because the empaths are born with that gift. They're born with that talent. And so, for example, when I hear something like that, I start to feel suffocated because all what I've been trying to do is not feel so deeply for others, right? So the reason we feel it is because our awareness and our soul is very heightened. So our soul is already in the 5D dimension. Our bodies react in the 5D. The only problem is that we don't know how to manage it. We haven't been taught to manage it because the people who were teaching us were not the ones who had these gifts, right? So they were teaching us how they perceive life, which is disconnect from yourself, only put me as a priority because they're trying to teach themselves how to put others into a priority, but they don't know how. What we empaths do, we naturally put other people into a priority. Of course, because we've come out of a traumatizing experience or family members, but in general, we're really attuned to other people's energy. So it's a fabulous gift. It may feel suffocating, it may feel horrible because there is no balance. We're incapable of figuring out how we feel, right? So we're the extreme on the other side. That's why it feels so overwhelming because we can't hear our own voice. We can't hear our own intuition. We can't hear our own knowing, let alone how we actually feel alone outside of somebody else's feelings attached to us. Now, how do we change the script around where we can feel in love with who we are and at the same time not having to absorb everybody's energy to try to figure out who we are? Because that's another aspect is by understanding everybody else's energies, we can figure out where we stand within all this energy, which is very suffocating because at some point it's as if there are 100 people living inside of you because we've had them since we were children until we grow up. You can just imagine how many people you meet throughout your life, even if it's somebody that you're just interacting with in a pharmacy or a supermarket, you've taken on their energy. So we've probably got thousands of people in our energy system. And so trying to hear ourselves is really, really difficult. Now, they're not necessarily negative. Now, this is what I want to make very clear, and this is what I'm hearing. So we assume that these emotions are negative emotions, that we're taking on people's negative emotions. But these aren't negative emotions. These are human emotions. Okay. We have been told and brought up to believe that feeling sad, upset, anxious, depressed, victimhood are bad, right? So we were taught to disassociate from those emotions. So us as empaths are walking around the world looking for good feeling people, good feeling everything. But even empaths go through emotions. If anything, we go through a lot more. We feel so deeply that when we're sad, we're really sad. When we're angry, we're really angry, right? So these emotions are not bad emotions. So if it's possible to start I'm really hearing to stop categorizing them as negative emotions or negative or absorbing negative energies because they're not negative energies. They are just energies that are here on the planet. However, now if I want to differentiate between my energy and the energy I'm picking up on, that's a completely different story. So, how do we pick up on our energy first? So, one of the most important tips is when I am sensing somebody else's energy and I cannot tell whether this is mine or this is theirs, okay? So somebody's angry in front of me and I'm not sure if it's triggered because of my anger or it's their anger. I will simply ask myself. So this is really, really important. The first thing I'll do is ask myself, this person's angry. I'm going to say, how is this person's anger making me feel? Right? Because as an empath, I will go out of my way to cater to this person's anger. I will blame and shame myself or guilt myself somehow. I'll try to figure out what I did wrong. But how to reassociate with self so that you can differentiate between the energies is ask, how is that person's anger, victimhood, sadness, frustration, whatever it is, doubt? What am I feeling in this presence? Immediately, you disconnect from the person now. They're not part of you. Their energy isn't part of you anymore because you're making it very clear to yourself, this isn't mine. You're not even asking, is this mine anymore? We've gone way past that. Okay, we don't even want to question ourselves if this is mine, if this isn't. I remember doing that and it used to drive me insane because I would start to panic. Oh my God, it's not mine. And then I'm like, oh, I'm blaming the whole world for how I feel. Right. So then I started to feel guilty. I'm not taking accountability or responsibility. It was just a mess. So immediately ask, what's this person's anger making me feel? Maybe it's making me feel insecure. Maybe it's making me feel sad. Maybe it's making me feel scared, right? So now I'm getting to know how I feel, my truth, regardless of this person. They were just there to present themselves so I can know. So now I'll be like, oh, that person's anger is making me shrink. It's making me feel less of myself. I want to disappear and I'm scared. So this is my feeling. Right? Now I know that anger is not mine, but this one is because this is the reaction I have. Now, as an empath, we're only focused outside, but we need to refocus in. That's how you get rid of these energies that don't belong to you, is you constantly question self. How is this making me feel? Right? So now instead of worrying about that person's feelings, oh, they're angry. Is it because of their childhood? But I know their history and blah, all these stupid excuses we give for people's bad behavior. We stop that and we're like, oh, wonderful. Because I don't know how to get to know how I feel in the presence of others, because I have them inside of me, this is an opportunity where I get to actually finally ask myself, how is this situation making me feel? What does that do? Reassociate, reassociate. Now, if you keep practicing that as often as you can, you're reassociating as often as possible. That means all of a sudden you matter. You start to matter to yourself, right? You start to feel like, wait, I matter more. How I'm feeling matters. Do I step away from this person? Do I continue conversation? Do I stay so I can figure more me out? It becomes all about you and your well-being in the situation. So another point is, um, whatever energies you are feeling around you from somebody else, okay, it is very important to tell yourself it's not a big deal. It's just an emotion. Okay. You try to minimize the panic because everything about empaths is push away everybody else's negative energy. Is this mine? Is this not? Confusion. We stop all that mayhem and we just say, this is not a big deal. It's not a big deal that I absorb their energy. Parts of it might be in me. Parts of that is what I feel also, because we all have the same energetic bubbles. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but it's triggering something within me, right? So one of the words to say it's not a big deal. Who cares if it's mine or theirs? It's not a big deal. So you minimize the value of fear. right? You want to shrink down fear. Fear is like, oh my God, is this yours? Is it theirs? Okay, you can't react from yours. You have to react from, you can't react to theirs. You have to react from them. Don't absorb their energy. So much fear happening. So if you just say, oh, this is not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Fear has nothing to grab onto you anymore. And once you say it's not a big deal, it really becomes not a big deal. So what if you absorbed somebody's energy? Who cares? Right? You want to start to teach your mind that it's not a problem and it's not a big deal because you know, this is the subliminal message you're giving yourself. You know that you can simply eradicate it. Okay? You know that you have that power. So this is starting to give you a belief of, oh, it's not a big deal. So what if it's here? Fine. I'm feeling very, very sad right now because somebody else is feeling sad in front of me. So what? I'm meant to experience this. Great. Let's experience it. Okay. So that's another tactic you can use. Another one that's very interesting is, so what I heard is your big toe. And I don't know why it's the big toe. But if you're either barefoot or in your shoe or with your flip-flops on, it's irrelevant. Focus on your big toe. So I tried to do this. I like tried to squish my foot on the floor and it's saying squish your big toe onto the floor, okay? Onto the bottom of your shoe, okay? You're going to find the rest of your toes crunching. That is fine. It doesn't matter. It's not like, no, just the big toe. It's fine. They can all crunch down, but your focus is on the big toe. The big toe brings you back to yourself. Okay. So what you're trying to do is you're just going to press the big toe down. This is also called anchoring in NLP. So you're going to press the big toe down. So this is going to bring you back to yourself. And you're going to visualize that this big toe, your big toe, is like a light bulb. Okay. So you're pressing the light bulb on. That light, then you're going, so now you're focused on you, right? You're bringing you back. You're bringing your energy back. You're going to notice that this light bulb has an electrical, it's like an electrical socket or vibration that's going to go through. It's like when you switch on the lights and how there's like between the two things, like electricity, it's a golden light that's coming through you. Either big toe, it doesn't even matter. So now you're filling up yourself back with you. You're filling yourself up with light. That's all you're going to do. Anytime, just think, oh, big toe. You don't even have to put in the effort. You don't even have to visualize if you can't. Just big toe. Trust that you're reigniting yourself. You've grounded yourself in that split second. Okay. So that's another tip that I received. And be okay with the notion that you don't have boundaries. I know it's upside down. But everyone's like, you got to build your boundaries, have those clear boundaries, blah, blah, blah. So much pressure. So much pressure when we as empaths, we've never been brought up to know what boundaries are. We don't know what that means, right? We think boundaries is like saying no and standing up for ourselves and that kind of attitude, but it really isn't, right? It's a gentler thing. It's a completely different thing. I think we could talk about boundaries on another episode, but don't worry about your boundaries being up or no, or that if you didn't answer on the spot, whether your boundaries were there. If you didn't quickly cut cords with them, you didn't have clear boundaries. If you didn't, quickly walk away, none of that even matters an iota. All I'm hearing is none of it really matters at all. Because once you start to ask yourself that question about how you're feeling, once you do the toe ignition, once you say, I don't even care, all that are boundaries, actually. See? Because now you're focused on you. Boundaries basically just means I'm focusing on me and what makes me feel comfortable, and I'm getting to know myself. So that's the idea of it. Is it making sense, Mel?
Yeah, I love it. It's really good. I'm like being really mindful of it and just like listening and absorbing it and realizing these are going to be really good things to practice as an empath
Mhm.
who gets lost in everybody else. And it's a process and it really does take practicing and reminding. I might have to listen to this episode a couple more times and just practice these things.
Yeah, because I would notice myself like being around people they're feeling really under the weather. Even definitely lots of narcissists in my life that I'm purging out to the very last T. But with narcissists, it's really, really hard also because they're constantly in that downward spiral and needing to bring you in so they can have company in misery, right? Needing to bring you in. But what's the best healing mechanism is, oh my God, how is that person's silent treatment making me feel? Now I can feel how I feel about it. And then as I feel it, I release that pocket of energy. So if I used to be terrified of that, the silent treatment, and I start to hover to get that person back because all of a sudden I'm scared that I don't exist. And I ask, how is this making me feel? Oh, it makes me feel like I don't exist, like I don't matter. That's how I'm feeling. That person can do whatever they want. But what's triggering me is this feeling. How can I love myself through it? What can I do with that? So it's really a very powerful tool to always ask yourself how this action or how this person's negative energy, you could still call it negative energy, this person's energy is reacting because it'll make you associate with you. If you are in a narcissistic relationship, it's so natural to give 99% of yourself to that person, right? And this is the way to bring yourself back. You want to constantly bring yourself back because we haven't been taught to associate, and we're teaching ourselves how to reassociate that we matter. So the whole process is, how do I matter? The more I matter, the less possible it is for me to feel people so deeply. I can feel them, but it means nothing more than I wish them well. But I don't need to now be so empathetic, a disempowered empath, where I'm jumping in to save the day because it's making me uncomfortable. So I have to fix them so I can feel comfortable instead of feel me so I can feel comfortable. It's just a different way to perceive it. Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Where we that when you said to like kind of associate back to self, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's totally how I lived a lot of my life. Was I feel like disconnected from myself and my own body. Like I've so much trusted other people over than me. It's like, what should I do? Oh, that'll be good. Okay, I'll do that. Oh, this will be good therapist to go to. Okay, I'll go to them. Like I would just listen to everybody else and was so disconnected and dissociated from myself. And so I love that practice of like when other people are feeling stuff, because I think that's what I normally do. It's like, oh, they're feeling anger. Ooh, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I start feeling that. Or it's like it triggers something that within me. So it's nice to look at it and be like, hey, what's really going on here? What am I feeling? What insecurities or fear or whatever? So I like this practice of just coming back to self and what am I feeling right now and just connecting back. Beautiful. Okay, well, this was amazing. Thank you so much for all these like tips and ways to come back to self. And I love like moving the feet, like the big toe. That was a good thing to connect there and feel that and focus on that. Okay, so thank you guys for listening to this episode. Go ahead and like, subscribe. You can follow us and you'll be up to date on all of our new episodes that we have. And let's see. Oh, comment. We want to get comments from you guys. We love connecting with you. So we'd love to like comment below what one of your biggest takeaways was from this episode. We'd love to hear from that, or anything else that you want to share with us would be awesome. And we will just see you on the next episode.